She only cleaned the rifles. They laughed at her soft hands. An elite sniper pointed at a plate 4 kilometers out. She looked at her broken watch, listened to the wind, and squeezed. If you think this ends with one impossible shot, wait until the desert answers back. The armory hummed. Old vents, dry air, the sting of solvent. Steel on steel, clicks that sounded like shy rain. Sophia kept her head down. She had a rag in one hand and a bolt in the other. Her shirt sleeves were rolled. Oil darkened the cuffs. She worked the way a clock would work if it still believed in time. Her watch did not. The crystal was cracked. The second hand stuck on the nick at 9:17. It had been that way since the bus ride that brought her here. A jolt, a fall, a small sound, then a silence you could wear. People asked why she still wore it. She said it reminded her to stop counting. Counting was for those who had time to waste. She had not. A voice cut through the thin music of metal. It carried a grin you could hear. Cleaner, it said. You gonna tuck that rifle in for a nap or teach it to bark? Laughter followed like loose gravel. Boots scuffed. A shadow leaned against the doorframe. He wore a patch of a thunderbolt and the easy pride of someone who won too much. The elite sniper. Everybody said his name like a badge. Cade Mercer. He chewed at the cap of a marker. He looked at the racks. He looked at her. Do you fire these, he asked, or just polish the parts we touch? Sophia wiped the throat of the chamber. Her hands were steady. Her breath had the patience of an old tree. If you want the rifle to work, she said, let me finish. More laughter. Mercer pushed off the frame. The far plate's out past reason today, he said. Waves like a mirage. It's having fun. You could point at it. That's all. We made it for stories. He let the marker bounce in his palm. I'll make you a story, he said. You cleaner, 4,000 meters, hit steel. I won't call you cleaner again. She looked at him. Then at the dusty road outside the open door. The wind ran along it like a thin animal. It lifted grit. It wrote small secrets in the air. She watched those secrets. Her father had called that language the voice behind the leaves. No leaves here. Only dust. It still spoke. She set the bolt down. Took a breath that was shorter than pride and longer than anger. When you're done with your jokes, she said, bring me the rifle that holds steady under heat. Not the pretty one. The honest one. Someone whistled. Someone else coughed a laugh back into his chest. Mercer shrugged. Fine. Pick your poison. He laid a heavy case on the bench with a thud. Inside was a rifle with a barrel like a road you could trust. Pitted a little. True where it mattered. She ran a finger along the lands, checked the crown, looked through the glass. The world slid closer. She dialed the turrets down and then up, then back to 0. Her hands knew where 0 lived. She pulled an old wallet from her pocket. It was thin. It rattled with a single coin and a folded picture of a woman with wind hair. Her mother. The plastic window was fogged. The leather was worn like it had been prayed with. She took the coin out and set it on the bench. I'll buy the wind a word, she said. People thought she was being strange. She was not. On the range, the heat moved like breath. The steel plates shimmered. At distance, the far one did not look like a plate. It looked like a rumor. They gave her a mat at the edge. They gave her looks that said she was a good joke. They gave her a small crowd. She lay down, checked her broken watch. It told her nothing. Good. She would listen to the sand instead. She tore a strip from a shop rag and stuck it into a split in a range board. It fluttered. Then it leaned. Then it trembled in a way that meant the wind was pretending to be gentle. Mercer spoke through a smile. You sure, Cleaner? She rested her cheek against the stock. The world found its single line. She took one breath. She let half of it go. And then the radio on Mercer's shoulder crackled and a new voice said, Hold fire. She did not. She squeezed, the desert flinched. The shot left like a promise that could be broken. And before anyone could swear they'd seen its path, a dust devil jumped into the lane like a dancer nobody invited. The dust devil crossed the bullet. It opened itself and took the air with it. The round hit a patch of dirt that hadn't done anything wrong. A small brown cloud went up 100 meters short. Laughter returned. It was louder now. Relief had a sound. Mercer clapped. That's a good scrub, he said. Cleans the desert too. Sopiha ran the bolt. The case arced out with a sound like a dime on tile. She did not look back. A miss was a sentence. It had a subject. The subject was wind. It had an object. The object was pride. She would rewrite it. She watched the rag again, watched the Mirage boil and lean, watched a thin line of dust slide along the low scrub 20 meters left of the lane. The desert kept talking. It used short words. She dialed 3 clicks, then 1 back, 3 forward again. The turret's knurling bit gently into her fingertips. She liked that. She liked tools that resisted just enough to tell the truth. The crowd shifted. Some of them edged closer without meaning to. Too many men learned by watching a car crash. They were ready for another. She adjusted her hips. She drew her toes in a little. The stock settled. The scope's shadow told her the glass was honest. Breath in, half out. Hold the half like you hold a word you're not allowed to say. Mercer said, "You get 1 fair try. That first one's charity. You know how it is with folks like you?" "Folks like me," she said. "Cleaners," he said. He grinned again. It was a good grin. It had a scar in it. It asked for trouble like a hand asks for heat over a stove. She watched the rag ease a hair to the right. Not much, but not nothing. The second shot left smoother. It took a longer truth with it. The air pulled, then let go. The bullet drifted. It drifted less than pride. It drifted just enough. At 4 seconds, she could hear the metal in her mouth. At 5, she could hear the men stop being men and turn into ears. At 6, she heard a thin note come back as if the desert had tapped a glass. Ping. A quiet ping. A small, sure sound. The kind of sound a secret makes when it lets itself out. No one moved. A private whispered, "No way." Another whispered, "I heard it." The spotter's scope coughed a low curse. "Mark on steel," he said, and he sounded like he'd stepped off a cliff and found air had rules. Mercer tilted his head. The grin cracked. He tried to put it back on. It didn't fit as well. "Luck," he said. "There's a word," she said. Laughter didn't know what to do. It tried to happen. It failed to land. She ran the bolt again. The case popped free and rolled all the way to the coin she'd set on the bench. It kissed it. She saw that. She believed in small omens. They cost less than big ones. The rag leaned less. The Mirage flattened. Heat lost a little courage. Her cheek found the same place on the stock. The rubber smelled faintly of sunburnt truck tires. It was almost sweet. A breath is a measure of time you keep for yourself. Her watch had nothing to say. Good, she broke the trigger. The rifle shoved her back with the affection of a friend who doesn't hug. Silence took the room of the world, and then the range officer's megaphone squealed. "Sea salt." The ping cut him off like a tiny bell inside a church that had decided to talk first. The crowd's voices fell to their knees. 2. 2 is not an accident dressed as a miracle. 2 is a pattern beginning to draw itself. A man near Mercer lowered his phone. He'd been filming. He had forgotten to smile. The screen was a window, and through it, a steel plate now had a second star. Mercer's jaw worked the way a tool does when it hits a bolt that won't move. He forced the grin back on. "Do it again," he said. "Do it until luck cries uncle." She said nothing. She nodded once like a person who would pick up a heavy box because it needed to go somewhere. She settled one more time. The wind cocked its head. The rag quivered. The Mirage leaned like a tired man. She read all of that. Then she did not move. Mercer's radio crackled again. Different voice, tighter. "Be advised, we got live sim unknowns in the East Field. Training cadre wants the line cold." She took that in. She did not shift. Mercer started to speak. She pressed. The shot left. It climbed the long, invisible stair. It had 6 seconds to find itself. It had 6 seconds to make her name something other than a joke. At 5 seconds, a truck door slammed behind the berm. It echoed like a gun. Half the men flinched. She did not. At 6 seconds, the desert answered, and the answer was not just steel. It was glass, and it was a flash, and it was movement in the far shimmer that did not belong to training. The plate sang. Something else moved beyond it. The spotter hissed. "Eyes," he said. "Eyes on a glint behind the plate. Not ours." The range officer was shouting now. The loudspeaker turned his words into a wet saw. "Line is cold, cold. Everybody down." Sopiha stayed in her lane, her cheek still on the stock. Her coin still bright in dust, her empty wallet still open like a mouth that had finished begging long ago. Beyond the plate, something aimed back. The air changed. Voices lost jokes. Movement gained purpose. You could feel the bass shove its heart into its throat. Mercer ducked. His hand found her shoulder. It did not squeeze, it asked. "What did you see?" He said. "Glass," she said. "At the ridge. Not a plate, a mind with a scope." He sucked a breath between his teeth. "Exercise?" he asked. The range officer was still barking. Trucks growled alive, but a fear, small and old, moved under the sound. "Exercises don't move that way. Exercises don't swallow their own names. Pull back," someone yelled. "Inside. Now." Men started to stand. Standing is louder than you think. Boots talk. Gear rattles. A single metal clasp can write a paragraph on silence. "Stay low," she said. Nobody listened to the cleaner. They listened to badges and megaphones. They made noise. She watched the ridge. The Mirage breathed. The glint blinked, once, twice, 3 times. It was a patient kind of blink. It told her the person behind the glass liked numbers. Mercer pressed the radio. "East Ridge. Possible live glass. Confirm exercise boundary. Static." Then a voice that didn't deserve to be scared but was. "Not ours." The world narrowed. It narrowed down to a hot rifle on a mat and a broken watch that cared about none of this, and a coin that had picked its side already. "Target distance?" she asked. 3780, the spotter said, breathless. He had done the math long ago. He had kept it in a pocket like a lucky nail. He never thought he'd spend it. "Wind?" she asked. "Variable," he said. "It's dirty past 2 clicks. "Mirage is lying," she nodded. "Mirage lies in summer. Mirage is a salesman. Dust tells the truth if you treat it like a neighbor." She lifted the coin, held it on edge. Let the breeze push it. It tilted, tugged, steadied. A child's trick. She liked tricks that didn't pretend to be more than they were. Mercer was on one knee. The grin was gone. A quiet sat where pride used to live. It looked like a room after the last guest leaves. "Aim at the plate," he said. "Use it like a stake. They're peeking behind it." "Or using it to measure us," she said. He heard that like a man hears a door creak when he's alone. He swallowed. He nodded towards the mat. "Take it," he said. No joke in it now, no strut, just a request from a shooter to another shooter. The crowd was gone or on its knees. The range officer had become a siren. Trucks blocked the sun. The dusty road beyond the fence kept on being the dusty road. It didn't grow a conscience. Roads never do. They only hold what goes over them. She slid back behind the rifle. She leaned into the stock as if the wood could hear. The far ridge swam. She blinked until it steadied. A shadow behind the plate breathed. You can see breath at distance if you know how to look. Not the breath itself, the pause after it. There was a notch of rock to the right, just enough to trick a first shot long. She held left. She dialed elevation to the place maps call myth. She held right just a kiss. She let the coin fall back to the wallet. It made the thin leather sound less lonely. "Wait," Mercer said, and it was a whisper with a crack in it. "You sure?" "No," she said. Then she took the slack out of the trigger as if she were untying a knot made by a nervous friend. Across the way, a tiny sparkle moved as if a finger had brushed a scope bell. The rag trembled. Her watch did not move. The world waited for somebody to pay a debt. She paid. The shot went. It went long on purpose. It went past the plate and past the rock and into the pocket of air where a man who learned on other deserts might flinch. She wanted his flinch. She wanted his next breath to be a question. 4 seconds is long when your name is on it. 5 seconds is a neighbor who won't stop talking. 6 seconds is a doorbell. Nothing. Then the glint twitched. A second glass blinked alive. There were 2. 1 watching. 1 learning. 2, the spotter said, sick to his stomach with it. Mercer looked at her. He didn't have words for the shape his pride had become. He had only the shape of a man who needed help. "Again," he said. "Please." That last word was soft enough to change the color of the day. She ran the bolt. The case landed in the open wallet. The picture of the wind-haired woman looked up at the sky. It did not complain, she adjusted. She made the kind of correction that feels like a lie when you've only shot on paper. She pressed. The rifle said the same thing it always says when it's honest. The far ridge answered, not with a ping, with something heavier. A shape slid down behind rock. A tiny puff, then a delay, then a dull thud. It was not training. It was absence. "Move," the range officer screamed. Everything moved, except her, and Mercer, and the Mirage, which dropped its mask for a heartbeat and showed the exact weight of air. The second glass blinked again. It had patience enough to be hatred. It tilted the other way. It learned fast. She was down to 2 rounds. The ammo box was a mouth with splinters. She smiled at that. An empty wallet. A short stack. She had lived on both. The second glass lowered. To cite, to judge. To end a sentence someone else had started, she whispered. One more. To the rifle. To the coin. To the woman in the picture. To the broken watch that did not care. She pressed the trigger and met the recoil like you meet a friend who will not apologize. And just before the bullet crossed the halfway wind, a truck rolled into the lane and threw the Mirage into a new lie. The truck's heat punched the air sideways. The bullet rode a new river. It drifted into a story no table had told. Sopiha knew tables. She learned them the way some people learn faces. But you cannot kiss a chart and fix the weather. You can only know the cost of the mistake you're about to make. She watched the trace. Just a whisper. Then the world took it. A white fleck jumped 2 meters left of where she'd begged it to go. That fleck was hope, landing years short of its house. Damn it, Mercer hissed. He was angry at the truck. At the sun. At the fact that the desert had a sense of humor you could not drink with. The second glass held steady. It waited. It had the patience of someone who had not met consequence often enough. She looked at the road. The dusty road. It ran past the fence and out toward the ridge like a thin brown thought. Heat stacked above it in soft plates. A pickup in the far lot turned off. The plates settled. Air fell back to its softest lie. Spot, she said. Wind's down in the first 2, the spotter said. Third is crooked. Fourth is across. After that, it argues with itself. He was good. He had language for the wind. She loved him for that in the way you love a person who knows where the tools go. Coriolis at this latitude, she said. Quiet. Half a body, he said. Spindrift? Cold bore is gone, he said. Call it a kiss, right? Do we still call it training? Mercer asked, and it came out like a joke that forgot to stand. No, she said. Her finger brushed the cracked crystal of the watch. The second hand perched at 9:17 the way a small bird perches on a bad wire. Her father had once said, when time breaks, you get to choose what to keep. She kept breath. She kept quiet. She kept the habit of not making noise until the world did. The ammo box was truly empty now. The last round lay shining like a stubborn star. Mercer slid his hand into his pocket. Came up with nothing. He gave a laugh with no teeth. Empty wallet, he said, and the words found her. He didn't know why he'd said them. He didn't know they were a door. She set the last round in the palm of her hand. It had a tiny scratch near the rim, a hairline tick where a magazine lip had gotten jealous. You could load it. It would still do its job. Probably. She closed the bolt. The bolt closed her. Shouts rolled past them like water. The trucks were gone from the lane now. The air lifted its shoulder and set it down. The second glass lowered to the plate. Then a little left. It was hunting her breath. She took a shallow one and held the half. The stock was warm. Her cheekbone remembered every rifle that ever lied to her. This one did not. 3780, the spotter whispered. Hold, she said. Hold what? Hold me, she said, and he put his hand on the back of her shoulder. Not hard, enough to tell her where her bones ended. She dialed nothing. She held everything. Right a whisper. High an argument. Low the truth, the trigger was glass. It did not break. It let itself be replaced by air. The rifle moved backward like a thought you refused to share. The bullet went, time opened. It showed her a child on a porch step. A father pointing at a field. Wind doesn't steal, he'd said. It trades. Pay it in advance and it'll pay you back with mercy. Halfway, a dust devil tried to be brave. It failed. The bullet slid past it like a day that refused to be ruined. 5 seconds. Her broken watch stared. 6 seconds. The ridge did not blink. 7. A bright fleck kissed stone. The second glass flinched in the wrong direction. It had learned the first lesson and not the second. It had learned to fear. Hit, the spotter said, not believing his own mouth. The ridge changed shape. Something lay down where altitude used to be, where anger used to breathe. The radios calmed from siren to talk. Stand by, a voice said. Secure. Secure. All shooters safe. Men stood up into a different day. The dusty road kept pretending to be a dusty road. It did not bring parades. Mercer sat hard next to her. He laughed. Then he didn't. He touched the broken watch with a finger that finally knew what to point at. You. How? He asked, but not like a challenge, like a person at a window with his breath on the glass. Same way you breathe, she said. He nodded as if breath was a hard math he'd ignored. He ran a thumb under his eye. Sweat. Maybe not only sweat. The range officer approached. He had a face like his heart had opinions. You two, he said, inside. Command wants words. Mercer stood. He swayed. He touched the bench. His coin glittered in the dust. He picked it up and pressed it into her hand. For the wind, he said. I owe it something. They walked toward the armory. The heat leaned against their backs like a tired friend. The trucks idled. Men were phones and whispers. The air already turned the story into a different story. Inside, the armory felt suddenly small. The racks crowded. The vents gave up. The clock on the wall ticked like it had earned the right. She opened the empty wallet and let the coin fall into it. 2 sounds.